Welcome to episode 37 of the Brew Crew Scoop. The Brewers just had a clean sweep of one of MLB's best Cleveland Guardians. Your Brewers are now officially in the hunt for the best record in MLB. We also have a big interview at the end of this podcast with the filmmakers from Just a Bit Outside, the new 1982 Milwaukee Brewers movie. They were awesome, so make sure you stick around for that and go check out the movie on September 13th. But before we get to that, how you feeling, Cole?
Good. Obviously a good weekend to be reviewing here against the Guards. So yeah, we were playing the best team in baseball according to record, and they are no longer the best team in baseball according to their record.
Season high 20 games over 500 now too, sitting at 72 and 52.
I was happy too that the magic number talks popped up because I've been thinking the magic number has to it with the lead we had in the division. And now we know.
Yeah, 11 games up on the division. All right, well, breaking it down right away. Game 1 Friday, Civale versus Williams. Aaron Civale went 6 scoreless. Willy Adames had a 3-run homer in the first. Bryce Wilson tried his best to blow the lead. Gave up 3 runs out of the pen, but Brewers won 5-3. Game 2, Peralta versus Bybee. 6 innings and 1 earned for Freddie. Gary Sanchez had an RBI double in the first. Josh Naylor tied it with a homer in the top of the fourth, but William Contreras home run at the bottom of the fourth was the difference in the 2-1 win. And then game 3, Colin Ray versus Mr. Lively. 2-hit shutout for the Brewers. Colin Ray took a no-hitter into the 6th, I believe. Ray pitched into the 8th inning, went 7+. 5 strikeouts, no walks. Brewers won 2-0 to finish the sweep. The starters in the series went 19 innings, 1 earned run, 10 hits, 12 Ks, and 3 walks. Just a masterclass by the Brewers starting rotation in that series to best the MLB's best at the time, Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, you stole my exact stat line and what I was going to say for untouchable pitchers. It was going to be a combined Brewers starting pitcher award. And then you read off the exact numbers I had for him, other than the 3 wins you didn't mention, which would also be self-explanatory. But those are the untouchable pitchers. Thanks for stealing my bid. I'll just log off now, man.
You fellas are untouchable. Is that the thing? No one can get to you?
Untouchable.
All right. Well, who was your untouchable reliever of the series?
Ooh. I kind of wanted to give it to 𝘑𝘜𝘚𝘚𝘚𝘚. I think he recorded his first career save.
First career, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of all those dudes, it's good to see Civale and Peralta getting it done when they've been a little up and down. But Colin Ray, sure as shit, does it again. He had that one bad start where he kind of had to wear it. But other than that, that man has been incredible.
Yeah. And Freddie looked real good. It just gave up a classic Freddie homer. But other than that, they all look good. Yeah, Civale is his last 2 starts have been pretty good. So hopefully he can get into the swing of things.
All right, well, we don't have to do untouchable then. So who was your hot hitter of the series?
Stop dropping on fire, Ricky Bobby! I'm on fire! He's so hot right now.
That is going to be Willy Adames. 9 at-bats and a walk, 3 hits, one of which was a double, one of which was a home run, and 4 RBI.
Nice. Short and to the point.
Yeah.
For that short series.
When it's only a series, I don't want to draw it out too much.
No, I know. This episode's mostly about our boys producing Just a Bit Outside anyway. So, but if we want to take a look at the standings right now, we can start looking at the overall MLB standings because the Brewers are right there. They are a game behind the Phillies for the best record in MLB. The Dodgers are just percentage points behind them because they played 2 more games with 1 win and 1 loss. Those are who we're chasing in the NL, obviously, for that first round bye. And then in between us and those 2 teams are the Yankees and, well, actually not the Guardians because we're tied with them. So tied with what would be a tiebreaker, but it doesn't matter until we get to the World Series. So looking at the rest of the league, Yankees Baltimore still right neck and neck in the AL East. Cleveland still has a 2.5 game lead in the Central. The Astros have a 5 game lead in the West, which I looked recently. Josh Hader is down to like a 3.3 ERA with like 27 saves. So his bad season has turned into a pretty solid season. Phillies have a 7 game lead in the East. Dodgers have a 3 game lead over the red hot San Diego Padres.
And
then look,
Diamondbacks.
yeah, Diamondbacks are hot too. Looking at the wild card, Baltimore, Minnesota, Kansas City in the AL have a pretty decent lead over the Red Sox. And then in the National League, Padres and Diamondbacks, as you just mentioned. And then the Braves have a 1.5 game lead over the Mets. San Fran's still in the hunt. And then 4 NL Central teams right after that who are a little bit outside of that. So I don't want to say it, but the Brewers, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. 11 game lead on August 20th makes me feel real good. Real good. That's all I'm gonna say.
I like our prospects too the rest of the year with maybe getting one of them top 2 seeds, because I would much rather do that than play the Braves or whoever it might be.
Yeah, definitely. I honestly, if you can, I'd take the bye over picking my matchup, no matter what team it is. You just a guaranteed spot in the NLDS feels a lot better than some crapshoot 3 game series, in my opinion.
I agree.
All right, you got anything for us for Statcast?
Baseball isn't just numbers. It's not science.
You sure about that?
Nothing crazy. Real high level though, I did, just because Brewers Twitter has once again gotten loud about Sal Frelick. Last time this happened, Sal got hot. So I just was looking at the Savant pages a little bit, and Sal is in the first percentile of average exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage. He's in the third percentile of bat speed and the fifth percentile of sweet spot percentage, which isn't great. But I thought, who else had similar numbers to this last year? And I'm comparing it to Turang, and Sal is currently better than Turang was last year. So I'm hoping Sal maybe makes some adjustments midseason or in the off season and can be a little bit more of a Turang next year than what he's done this year. And I think even at his current, I guess, performance, people are going to talk a lot, but he plays defense. He can play small ball. He's got speed, and he still hits for average, which I know doesn't mean what it once did. But with the build of the rest of the roster, I think an ability just to be on base and play smart baseball is still serving its purpose, especially in this post Yelich era, which is something we're gonna have to talk about because it happened seconds after we stopped our last podcast. But it was just looking at Sal, and yeah, Savant doesn't love him, but he's good at not striking out. He's pretty good at taking walks. He's good at defense. He's good at running, and he is still pretty good at putting bat to ball. So I don't know. I think the contact tool could come and play down the stretch, and people should probably relax a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you there. As you mentioned, I totally forgot that should have been a headline of this episode because, like you said, it did happen about 5 minutes after the last episode. Christian Yelich, season-ending back surgery. If you are listening to this, you probably already heard, but huge hit. Not that we can't win without him. It just stinks. It's just sad, honestly. You just feel for the dude, and puts into perspective probably what he's been trying to go through for the last couple of years with the back injuries. And selfishly, I wish for the best for my Milwaukee Brewers, but also just wish for the best because he's such a lovable dude. So hoping to see Yelich back and healthy in 2025. But in the meantime, I don't think it shouldn't mean too much to this 2024 team. We've shown that we can get it done with whoever we put on the field.
Yeah. Losing a MVP caliber player like Raleigh Fingers, sometimes it's all the team needs to band together a little bit extra and make a run.
Yeah, and then talking about the other couple transactions that happened, McGill is rehabbing, and did he get activated today? I haven't been.
It said he was going to be for
he was
Elvis,
supposed
I
to.
think.
Yeah, because they optioned Elvis yesterday. So but the bullpen's getting back to full strength and kind of staggering whether they're real injuries or not, and some optionable guys to maybe give them some rest before playoff time. So you feel pretty good about you're starting to feel about as good as you can with this Brewers pitching staff. Not that they haven't been good, but obviously there's some question about the starting rotation, and right now you feel about as good as you have all year, I'd say.
Yeah, we almost have too many good arms in the pen right now, it seems. Especially when you consider the Mizorowskis and Yohos of the world showing that no one has proven they can beat them at any level of baseball this year, pretty much. And we just don't really have the roster space yet to necessarily bring them up now. Not saying we would, but I have to imagine if we were a Brewers team without such a loaded pen, those guys would be getting the call by now. So
Yeah, Miz is throwing relief stints in Nashville, so tells you what they're thinking there. Don't think there's any other transactions. So around the farm,
If it hadn't been for those meddling kids. If it hadn't been for you meddling kids. Ah, meddling kids. If it hadn't been for these meddling laddies.
Cole, I'll let you take it away since you sent it. What do you have to say about our good friend Casey Hunt down in AA?
yeah, I saw the Biloxi Twitter account. So shout out Javik, even though he doesn't run the Biloxi Twitter account. He is a key.
He kind of runs that city and franchise, from what I hear.
He's a key feature for sure. You get to hear his calls, but the Brewers' 29th prospect, which is not a top 10 guy, but Casey Hunt recorded 8 straight punch outs in his first 2 AA starts. So he's a beast. And he is a guy that I think we've talked about a little bit here and there in segments. Obviously, I think, as I said here, it's his first 2 AA starts, so he's recently promoted. But the pitching in this organization is unreal. We were just talking about in Nashville, where you have guys like Henderson, Yoho, Miz. We just optioned Hall back down there. Trying to think, some of the other starters too have been doing it for the whole year. Just crazy the amount of talent within this org at all the levels. So that's why a guy like Casey Hunt, who is seemingly actually a pretty talented young arm, is written down as the 29th prospect in the org. Is just, the depth is unreal.
Yeah. I got nothing to add to that, but I think this is probably a good time to say let's go to our interview with Kelly Kahl and Sean Hanish, talking about Just a Bit Outside. All right, we are here with Sean Hanish, director and producer of Just a Bit Outside. Also here with Kelly Kahl, producer of Just a Bit Outside, the story of the 1982 Milwaukee Brewers. Thank you to you both for being here. We're so excited for this movie. We put the trailer out on our Twitter, and it got all kinds of great comments, tons of likes, tons of interaction. People are thrilled about this movie in Milwaukee. So it's going to be out in select Marcus theaters on September 13th. So guys, thanks for being here, and really just wanted to hear about first your backgrounds, and then give you a chance to talk about the movie.
You go first, Kel.
You go first. I grew up in a little town called Burlington, Wisconsin. That's about, I don't know, 25, 30 miles southwest of Milwaukee. Brewer fan, I guess me being conscious and the Brewers coming to Milwaukee are about this same time. Went to maybe a couple games each year. Lived and died with the 82 team. Unlike Sean, I probably was not there all the time. I was probably watching on TV on good old channel 18 in Milwaukee. And I would just say, kind of like, there's something about this team that just felt accessible, I guess, to common people. Gorman Thomas was my hero growing up. I modeled my batting stance after him. I wore my stirrups like him. I struck out a fair amount like him. And I think this was a team of free spirits, and I just really identified with them.
Well, I mean, Kelly and I are basically the same age, and I really came to know the Brewers. My dad and my whole family are huge sports fans, and so I believe it's when Hank Aaron came back for those last two seasons, in I think it was 74, 70 or 75 and 76, that he got tickets. He was a big Milwaukee Braves fan. He was my when he was a teenager. That also corresponded, of course, with Robin Yount's, first year, which I remember my first game, he took me to see Hank Aaron. And, lo and behold, I also get to see an 18-year-old Robin Yount. Um, like Kelly, fell in love with these guys. They seem so real and so much like you could just go up and talk to them, certainly later in life, go have a beer with them. Um, so I grew up in Brookfield and was really fortunate. Again, my parents having season tickets, was fortunate to see about 60 games that season. We was what we would do as a family. We would just go Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon, grab sandwiches, tailgate, and then watch the game. So it was an amazing time. And when you're 14 years old, 14-year-old boy, and your team has all of these great players and great characters, and little did we know how many Hall of Famers were going to end up on that team. But you could just tell there was something special going on. So I was again fortunate enough to go to all six of the playoff games that year, and went on the ride, and it's so special. And I love the Packers, and I love the Bucks, and I love the Badgers. But for me at that age, there was nothing like going to County Stadium and watching this team that I truly loved, and like Kelly, we lived and breathed it, and we were on the ups and on the downs. So
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here with the love of all sports, but Brewers reigning supreme. Scoop, and then a couple of the other buddies will always talk about like the Bucks run was just a couple of years ago, and it was great for us, but we're always like, yeah, but I still wish the Brewers could do it. So I can feel that.
It was also kind of a different time where, if the Brewers are out on the West Coast, for instance, you go to bed having no idea what happened. There's no internet, and then even the paper the next morning, because if it was a late West Coast score, you wouldn't even see that. So it was like, all right, maybe get on the radio to, maybe WTMJ says how the team did the night before, but it was, just keeping up with the team was a little more difficult than it is now.
And you guys would know better than me, but I believe back then, definitely not all games were televised, right? So some were just radio calls.
Yep.
And is that kind of tied to the name a little bit with just a bit outside there and who might have been calling those games?
it's a nice tie-in, right?
Yeah.
That was primarily it, because I don't think they televised more than, how many games do you think, Cal? Like 20 a season?
I think it was I think Channel 18 had a pretty healthy package,
Okay.
but certainly not all the games.
And I think one of the challenges for us for this film is there are few regular season games that still exist, because it's not like people would tape them. It's not like they archive them. They just kind of came and went. So, I mean, we relied on a lot on This Week in Baseball, the old, Mel Allen show, which is amazing. And then, which we tune into every week to get the highlights. And then also Mike Caldwell had a bunch of VHS tapes of the games he played in.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
And so we were able to pull from those, but it was that type of a hunt for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
The regular season, not the playoffs, not the final game in Baltimore. That's all out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I like to do a lot of the old highlights on our Twitter page. Not only because people like them, but I just like finding them. And it is hard to find a lot of that old stuff. You find an old episode of This Week in Baseball, like you said, or someone was nice enough to post their own VHS tape on YouTube of the game, but it's tough. And yeah, I guess so. We've heard about you guys, and we know what's coming up with the movie, I guess, just based on the 2-minute trailer, but just want to give you guys any opportunity to talk about the process of making the movie, or what you're particularly excited about to show the people maybe what they don't know about the 1982 team.
Well, I'll know the story pretty well now. This all kind of started with me getting to meet Gorman Thomas and play a round of golf with him. And I was like very nervous because this was my guy, this was my hero. And I actually didn't accept the invitation because I thought the guy extending the invitation was completely pulling my leg, because I'm like, well, there's no way I'm getting to play golf with Gorman Thomas. But sure as heck, we did play, and immediately had just kind of an easy rapport. And he had, a new story for every hole. A lot of it was drinking stories. But I'll say the other thing, even within, a couple holes, and you're out on the golf course, and he's giving you a hard time, you're giving him a hard time. You could kind of feel, I was not in the Brewer locker room, but you would get a sense of what he was talking about. That, they're kind of ribbing each other, but having fun with it, and being supportive at the same time. If you hit a nice putt, he's happy for you. If you shank one in the woods, he's like, what the F's the matter with you? So you got a sense of it. And I was lucky enough to play with him for I don't know, 2-3 years, and heard lots of stories. And it just occurred to me at some point, I'm like, God, there's something here. And then I kind of shared a lot of it with Sean. Sean reminds me we must have done that over beers. And he agreed there was something interesting here.
Well, I think, when Kelly, I mean, yeah, we were having beers when we talked about this, and you were telling me about all the, I think at that time you played with Gorman in like 5 or 6 rounds, and you were like, he literally has a story for every hole. And so you started regaling me with some of the stories, and I'm like, that's hysterical. And then Kelly and I talked about the season, and for those that might not be familiar with it, it maps out like a movie script. You have this team, we'd made the playoffs for the first time in 81. And then, so the team comes in with these high expectations that we can take it all. And all the guys believe it, by the way. And they come out and they fall flat on their face. I mean, at that point, remember, we were in the American League and we were in the Eastern Division. And there were 7 teams and we were in 6th with this incredible talent. So what can you do but replace the manager? And so you go from the one manager to Harvey Keene, who had been the hitting coach for almost a decade, who, because of his diabetes, had a wooden leg and lived above the bar that his wife's family owned. I mean, that's like sitcom material.
It does not get any more Milwaukee than that.
Yeah, Milwaukee. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And if we remember, like, he was a high school star in Milwaukee. He played at Madison. He was a Badger, and then he went and was a batting champion with Detroit. So I mean, really highly decorated, really well respected. And so he went. Anyway, he comes on, and immediately this team catches fire. He would just set the same lineup every day. The guys knew, hey, come in, play hard, and you're good. And they took off, went from 6th place to 1st place in 2 months. And, but then, the injury bug hits. Vuk basically throws his arm out. Raleigh gets injured. Yeah, we pick up Don Sutton, Hall of Famer. So, but it's starting the waters are getting a little shaky. And then, we only have to win 1 of the last 4 games of the season in Baltimore. We lose the doubleheader Friday. We lose the Saturday night game. So you're like, and all the guys are like, oh my God, we can't lose it now. So there's a do or die game at the end of the season. We end up pulling it out. The guys are relieved. They're partying on the way to Anaheim to play the California Angels, and come out flat. Lose the first 2. Have to win 3 in a row to win the American League Championship. Come home to the fans that just love them and embrace them, and we win, as you guys know. And that 5th game is pandemonium. It's bedlam, both in the stadium and in the streets of Milwaukee. And then there's, of course, the very dramatic 7-game series with the Cardinals. We're even leading going into the bottom of the 6th inning. So, but anyway, the story lays out so beautifully as a script. I guess the thing that we didn't really know is how deeply these players still held emotions about the season, both about the great times, their relation, how much they loved each other, how much they loved the fans, and also how much they still hold on to that heartbreak.
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually I guess it'd be considered a family friend with Jim Gantner. And I've talked to him a little bit about some of the relationships and stuff too. And there's obviously not really anyone other than maybe Robin Yount, who I guess represents the Brewers more than I feel like Jim Gantner, from being from the state and obviously playing his whole career here. But just some of the little stuff, when I talk to him, I try to talk to him like he's a normal-ish person and not like not like a hero or whatever. But just the little bonds and stuff that he would talk about with the guys around the team. And I feel like obviously in the modern game, they still have that to a level. But the way that this team, one, stuck together, a lot of them for so long, and two, just like I guess you guys were kind of hitting on, is the camaraderie. And I'm sure a lot of that'll come out in some of the sit downs and the interviews. But that's maybe the piece I guess I'm also most excited to see all the film and how it developed, just because you guys lived through it. So for you, it's more of a memory of the times, where for like Scoop and I, some of it will be seen for the first time. I roughly know the storylines and stuff, but again, there's stuff where you guys will be remembering, but some younger fans will be learning. So between the player like relationships and then just seeing all the footage, I think are the two things I'm most excited for specifically. But yeah, it sounded like quite the specialty.
I'd humbly throw out, we've shown it to people who know the story really well, and we've shown it to some people who don't know the story at all. And the film kind of works both ways. If you know what's coming, you are kind of living and dying with every pitch. And you are like, you find yourself going, I think they've got it this time. You almost, you're kind of playing along. And for people who don't know the story, they're playing along too, although the kind of assumption is that they're going to pull it out in the end. And then it's almost as tough a blow for someone who doesn't know what's coming. My mother-in-law was like, why in God's name would you show this to me when they lost? Because she thought they were going to win. And it was a blow for her. So that's, I think that's a tribute to just the nature of the season and the Sean said it's like a movie script, and that's how it plays out.
Yeah.
I think, Cole, the thing that we were really trying to do as filmmakers was, I was like, is it even possible to capture the same emotion I felt on film, of those emotions I felt when I was 14 years old? And I was a little, I was skeptical. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I love film. I'm like, film can do everything, right?
Yep.
But I was like, can it do that? And it was, I believe, about 6 months ago, we were in the editing bay and we put together, really crafted that final game 5 of the ALCS and those final few pitches and final at bats. And then that explosion of energy when Robin throws to Coop and Coop jumps off the bag. And I swear to God, when I watched it down, I was like, we did it. These are the feels. This is what it was like. And so I think that's kind of the super joy of sharing this film, is that, I mean, in Scoop, I do think you guys are going to get the feeling of what it was like to be there. And it was truly magical, special, once in a lifetime stuff.
I'll say one more thing and then shut up. But the other thing that the unique thing about this group, maybe for the last time, or at least close to the last time, these were guys who were out in the community. They were out at bars after games. There were no cell phone cameras around. So if they were out as a group, people weren't in their face, and it wasn't, reported the next morning that they closed a bar somewhere. So they were of the people. And I think in a way that, sure, do the Milwaukee fans, love the current team? Sure they do. Do they see them out and about town very much? Probably not. Because it's impossible for those guys to go out and do that now. But this team was out, and I think that's why I think when people looked at those guys, they kind of saw normal guys and related.
Yeah, that's everything I hear from people in that generation that remember that, is they talk about, oh, I had a beer with Gorman Thomas in the parking lot after the game one time, or like, just crazy, and to think about the time and how and just seeing from the trailer too, how they were just intertwined with the community and they represented Milwaukee. But yeah, I can't wait. Sean, like you talked about, seeing that final out in the ALCS, like seeing it on the screen, it's going to be great. I already have my tickets for September 13th to go see it. I can't wait. And you mentioned talking about bringing in a coach that was an assistant coach for years, and he became the manager, kind of changed everything. And then I heard about pitchers getting hurt, and it made me think about Pat Murphy right now with these Brewers, and how they've had a little bit of a special spark, and some pitchers getting injured as well. Curious how much you guys still follow the current version of the Milwaukee Brewers. Do you still follow them as closely to this day?
I was watching the minor league games of Jackson Chorio last year.
Awesome.
I mean, once a Brewer fan, always a Brewer fan. I mean, we live in LA, but we got the MLB package. My son is as big of a Brewer fan at age 12 as I was when I was 12, so it's deep. It runs deep.
And out here it's kind of cool. The games are usually on 3 or 4 o'clock. So
Yeah.
I used to turn it on in my office at work, and kind of kill out the end of the day watching the Brewers. It's funny though, you mentioned the assistant coach kind of moving up to be manager. We've noticed some parallels between Harvey and Pat Murphy, that it's kind of like older guys, experienced guys. They don't overreact to everything. They kind of are good guides for the younger guys, and they're kind of like, guys, just go play, go have fun out there. It sure seems like the team in both cases responds.
And I think it's this team also, in the current modern team, is a really great mixture of, young players and veterans, which is very much what the 82 team was like. So there are a lot of parallels, which is great because, why not? Let's release the movie. Let's all go see the movie, and let's go win a World Series.
Oh, there you go. The
I like
sequel.
it. Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I was just gonna say one thing that for me, I mean, you guys have hit on it and you lived through it again, like I said, but I feel like honestly, the 82 team, I mean, every 5 years, there's another anniversary you celebrate and bring as many guys back. And until I was like, I don't know, I was probably after 10, like I literally thought it was a World Series team because it celebrated so greatly in the Milwaukee area that we did it. And then all that. So I guess I'm just again excited to relive how much it means to people, because I think in the film, like you were saying, you can see in the crowd and you see County Stadium, and again, Scoop and I were too young to really go to County Stadium unless we were in a roller chair, whatever I'm trying to say.
Stroller, there
A
you go.
stroller. Clearly, I don't have kids yet. But just to see the emotion around County Stadium too, because so many of like our parents and even my grandparents, they have such great feelings about County Stadium and the Brewers and all that. But I think so much of it is rooted just from the 82, well, maybe 81 and dating back to that prime era of those guys. But I don't know, that team really set a precedent, I think, for what the Brewers became and why we still have a good fan base in Milwaukee. People love, obviously we brought the best logo in baseball back, but people would be wearing that all throughout my childhood, even when we were switching logos and all that, because I think not only is it a cool logo, but it brought back great memories. So,
and they had a parade even, right, in Milwaukee for the AL champs, which is not something that really happens anymore for
I think that's really the big, emotional turn in the film is, as we've been talking about the movie, and as we conceived of the movie as a bunch of drinking stories and a lot of just, the camaraderie and all that fun that they had on and off the field. What we found out the story was really about is when the town was in a recession, and all the places, the brewery Schlitz was closing, and a lot of factories were closing, and people were really down. The team lifted them up. You gave them something to cheer for, gave them something to believe in, gave them something to look forward to. And then, like at the lowest moment of the team's year, after we lost game 7, the next morning, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people showed up for a team that had just lost the World Series. It was a parade that was bigger than the parade that was held in St. Louis for the winning team. And they lifted the guys up. And the guys to this day are just so grateful to have played for the city of Milwaukee, for the fans of the Brewers. You know, they can't say enough about it. Really, that's kind of what makes the film in the end, you know, hold together. It's really poetic, you know, if I may say so, you know. not to pat ourselves on the back, but I mean,
What are you, a filmmaker? Or what?
I don't know. I'm gonna stop that. We can talk about batting averages and on base percentages.
No, I honestly was thinking that obviously any Brewers fan would rather have the World Series, right? But it's like I was trying to say, like more of a testament to what the team meant and what the city thought of the team, that they didn't technically win the World Series, but everyone treats it like that to the extreme that I literally thought that's what it was until I I guess paid enough attention. But yeah, everyone just those names, they're just in everyone's head forever, right? Like in the off season, Scoop and I did like Mount Rushmores of each era. And when we were looking at the 70s and the 90s from someone born in 99, I can tell you I knew a whole lot more names from the 80s than I did from those other two eras, just because those are just ingrained in the city. So yeah.
Yeah, I got one more question for you guys. I'm curious to hear, like, Sean, you mentioned how hard it is to get some of the film from the regular season. I'm curious if either of you have a favorite non-playoff moment from the 1982 team, maybe during the regular season, maybe something we've never heard of. Sorry to put you on the spot, but
Personal or some of the stories we heard?
either way, I guess. Just I feel like we know the playoff run so well.
Yeah.
Curious to hear if there's a big, maybe it was the coaching change, just more broad, but
I mean, I guess, okay, one thing that I didn't realize, I mean, I know we talked about Vuk and, you know, him having the arm troubles down the road, is that we found out that he had torn his rotator cuff. I mean, he was, as Ted Simmons says, he was half a man out there. I mean, he was a full man, but he was half of the pitcher he was.
Sean, what was the game he threw? What was it, 162 pitches? Boston?
Yes, it was. He ended up getting a cortisone shot the day before he pitched in Boston. And I remember Harry Dalton had flown out and said, "Don't do it. This could be the end of your career." And he said, "I'm doing it because I'm pitching for this team and we're going all the way." Got the cortisone shot and went on the mound in Boston, pitched an 11-inning complete game, throwing 162 pitches.
wow. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
and never won another game.
Oh,
after
really?
that point. Kept the team pretty much in every game he pitched, but never got an official W for any game after that, and was, you know, and they all knew he was hurting.
Yep.
But no pitcher today would be out there pitching with their shoulder as banged up as his was.
Yeah.
Wow. Did he start game 5 of the ALCS? Am I remembering that correctly?
You are. Yes,
Okay,
he did.
Yeah, gotcha.
And game 7 of the World Series.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right.
And he blames himself, and that's, I think, one of the more poignant points in the movie. He blames himself for not getting it done. He blames himself for not throwing a complete game with a torn rotator cuff.
That's something too that we realized is all these guys. Well, in that game, there's a play that we kind of go into detail within the film at the bottom of the 6th inning of the 7th game of the World Series, where Molitor blames himself for not hearing Yount whistle so that he could take a step to the line and catch that liner right down third that he missed by 6 inches. Yount blames himself for not whistling loud enough. Vuk blames himself for not placing the pitch where he wanted to. So all of these guys, you know, they don't pass the buck. You know, they really were just like, it's me.
Yount would relay the sign to Molitor on every pitch
based on
so that they would adjust defensively accordingly, whether inside, outside, fastball, curve. And on this one pitch that, you know, where Molitor didn't get the sign. If he had gotten it, he would have taken he said he would have taken a step toward the line, and then the ball comes to him and the inning is over. Instead, it's a double down the line in second and third, and those runs came in.
But I will say, hearing like the ownership of stuff like that explains why it was such a good ball team, though, right? I think guys all took it upon themselves, and baseball is that game where it's the craziest mix of team and individual. And if the individuals at least accept the ownership there, and yeah, I think, and obviously like the story you're telling about Vuk, he wasn't the only guy I think that would let it all on the line for that team, and that just goes to show and why I think we're really excited to see all the guys talk. And
especially at the end, they were all banged up. Gorman was banged up. They were all. It's a long season. They played. I guess, Sean, they played the maximum amount of games they could have possibly played that year.
Yeah, they did, and started almost all of them.
Yeah.
This is, you know what I mean? Again, a very different game than today's game. You know, not saying which is better. It's just different.
Well, and just what making the playoffs meant back then relative to now. And in the East, or from all I can tell, was quite the challenging division too at the time. So
every season you're up against the Yankees, the Red Sox, and at that time a great Orioles team.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I hear that to this day, and I read Bud Selig's autobiography a couple of years ago. He talks about how every time he sees Raleigh Fingers to this day, he says, Raleigh, if you were healthy, we would have won that World Series, because Raleigh Fingers threw his own arm out as well. So just crazy. What you can't say enough about what those guys were made of.
It was Whitey Herzog, the manager of the Cardinals, agreed with Selig.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, wow, very cool, very cool.
He, Raleigh, we all think of closers now as coming in usually for the ninth, but Raleigh would pitch multiple innings on a very regular basis. So bringing him in the sixth inning of Game 7 would not have been unheard of, and they could have also used him in Game 2, which was a tie game, and would have had a much better chance of winning. So, and Raleigh himself says it. He said, a short series or a World Series can turn on can turn on the smallest thing, and it did.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any other specific questions, Cole. I was just going to leave with one thing. Do you have any other specific questions on the movie before we?
I think the one thing, and I think I saw Cecil Cooper was interviewed. Is that right? Yeah, I just like hearing from him because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like his number should be hanging above the stadium, and no one else should be able to wear it, just from what he did for the team and so on. And especially, again, being a younger fan, when you go to the stadium, you see all the names up there. So those are the players that are like the all-time great Brewers. And his name wasn't up there or still isn't up there. And I'm just excited, I guess, to hear his piece, because again, in the offseason, I know a couple times Scoop and I talked about too how his career in Milwaukee ended. Probably not how either side would want it to, I think. So, but again, he was as big a piece as just about any on all those successful teams.
It's a neat moment for him in that Game 5, because he talks about coming up in the sixth, and he says, I had failed. I had been up 2 times previously with runners on base, and he said, I pride myself on being an RBI guy and coming through. And he says, I failed miserably. So he, got that hit and got that validation, and talked about standing on first base and, kind of being on air and being numb, because that's every kid's dream.
Yeah, and he's by the way, what a gentleman.
That's what it seems.
Yeah.
And like one of the best baseball through his full career into his post playing career too. Just awesome.
Truly. And his interview, all their interviews are so great. And honestly, we have so much. We had like 45 hours of interview footage.
Wow.
We had typically we're like 2.5 to 3 hours with each of the guys. So
Wow,
that's awesome.
I guess the other thing I just, and again, I'll shut up, but the other thing that was super interesting, and when you reference Cooper, that made me think of it, when they won in Baltimore, Cooper sprinted over to Bud Selig and kind of gave him a hug. All these guys revere Bud Selig to a man. In fact, they all call him Mr. Selig. I don't think anybody doesn't call him Mr. Selig, and I think they still do.
They do.
Robin has an amazing relationship with they all do. They all respect really the living hell out of Bud Selig.
Yeah, save baseball in Milwaukee. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys one last if there's any questions we didn't ask or just one final takeaway or one thing you were excited to learn during the movie or you're excited without spoiling too much for everyone to see. Just one last opportunity to give you guys a chance to say whatever you'd like about the film.
I'd like to say something that's actually not baseball-y, but it's music related. Because I think for all of the Milwaukee, music lovers out there, there was this incredible music scene in the late 70s, early 80s. And all of the music in our film is from that era.
Oh, awesome.
That's awesome.
So it's a couple bands I saw in high school. But I mean, the music really captures the spirit of the time. So like obviously I'm excited for people to see the baseball and the stories and all that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a really fun,
Yeah.
kind of another fun angle on capturing that kind of time capsule.
That is
Awesome.
cool.
And I would just say, you guys talked about you're the Mount Rushmore of eras, and I think for us the cool part was we just, these guys were larger than life when we were growing up, and we got to sit with them and meet them, and we just found out they're human beings, and they're just guys. Yeah, they're superstars, but they're real people, and that kitschy as that sounds, I think that was the cool revelation for me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you both so much for the time. We really appreciate it. Like I said, we both can't wait to see the movie. Just a bit outside the story of the 1982 Milwaukee Brewers. Thank you so much, and best of luck with everything and with the film and any future endeavors. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you.
Guys.
Can I say just one more thing?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I just want to remind folks that it opens on Friday, September 13th at Marcus Theaters throughout the state. So we're all the way from Green Bay to Madison, Oshkosh, Appleton, Sheboygan, and then 7 theaters all around Milwaukee. So I just want to say go buy your tickets now. It's I think
Yes, sir.
It's worth it.
I already booked my spot, so sounds great. September 13th, everyone. Go buy your tickets. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Go Brewers.
Yep, go Brewers.
All right, we're back from that very fun interview about the new movie, Just a Bit Outside, coming. I can't wait to see it. Those guys are awesome, so we really appreciate them coming on, giving us some of their time there.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it was actually really cool to sit down and hear some of the behind the scenes, and also just obviously 2 super fans. They had enough time to make a freaking movie about it, right? So just hearing about their perspective on those teams as well. Not just lip work here when we're saying we're excited to see the movie, and for some people, like we said, relive, but for us it's partly like living for the first time. So
your upcoming schedule brought to you by the beer of the week.
I'll have a brewski, Charlie. Well, there's nothing like a cold one after a long day, huh? Oh, yeah. I've been known to drink a beer or 2.
Door County Vacation Land Juicy IPA. Upcoming schedule, Brewers start a series with the Cardinals in a few minutes in St. Louis, and then they head to Oakland to help close the Coliseum. Random game in Brewers history.
Random!
We talked about this one with our guys, but needing to make the playoffs, the Brewers had to win 1 game in the final series, the final 4 games of 1982. And after losing the first 3 on October 3rd, 1982 in Baltimore, the Brewers and the Orioles squared off. Don Sutton versus Jim Palmer on the mound. What a matchup. Brewers scored 1 in the first, second, and third, 1 in the sixth, 1 in the eighth, and 5 in the ninth to win 10-2. The Brewers lineup that day, man, this is a fun lineup. Molitor, Yount, Cooper, Simmons, Ogilvy, Thomas, Howell, Moore, Romero. Orioles starting lineup: Al Bumbry, Glenn Gulliver, Ken Singleton, Eddie Murray, John Lowenstein, Jim Dwyer, Cal Ripken Jr., Rick Dempsey, and Rich Dower. Cal Ripken Jr. hitting seventh. Funny to see. Don Sutton went 8 innings with 3 strikeouts and 5 walks, 2 earned. McClure came in and closed it out for the last out. Don Money had a double. Robin Yount had a triple and a homer. With runs batted in, Molitor had 1, Yount had 2, Cooper had 3, Simmons had 2, Ogilvy had 1, Howell had 1. As I mentioned, 10-2 Brewers win. 11 hits for the Brewers, 10 hits for the Orioles, but big difference in score. Secured their spot in the playoffs, AL East champs, and then they headed to California right after that. And the rest you can go see on the big screen, find out what happened.
I was gonna say that was Cal Ripken's first year as an everyday player in 82. And then from 83 to 2001, he was an all-star every single season. So that was his one full season where he wasn't also an all-star.
That's crazy. That like era, like kind of like mind fucks me sometimes when I think about like, oh, Cal Ripken playing against the 82 Brewers. And it's like, oh, 2001 All-Star.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
I remember like the 2005 All-Star game probably. It was like the first, like, it's like funny. Like Ricky Henderson. I always see that he played in like 2005 or 2004, but he also played in 79. Like, that's insane.
Well, even Don Sutton pitched forever, I think. Because
Yeah.
like when he was in his heyday, and the old pictures of him on the Dodgers are from like the mid '60s. He was a contributor on the
Yeah.
Brewers.
Yeah, Ricky made his debut in 79, and then he played in 2003. Like,
Damn.
that's crazy.
But there's all still no Gordie Howe. That man played until he was like 60.
78.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts. What do you got for me?
All right, I'll rattle some off. One, Backyard Sports is back.
Yeah.
I like would play. I can't say I like know every guy memorized. There were a couple of them, the Pablo Sanchez's of the world. But it will be fun, just nostalgic to
Oh, yeah.
see what they do with that. This weekend, I think it's just extra fitting with Churio and his youth, but it's the 50th anniversary of Yount's debut. I know they had that pretty cool giveaway. So that was cool. And then my last kind of final thought is just because I heard it on like multiple national media things now, is everyone's talking about Murph manager of the year and how he's like by far the favorite, blah, blah, blah. And I would think that as long as he can ride out the rest of the season, as he's done most of the year, it is his. And that would be hilarious because a certain somebody never won it while with the Crew and then took another job. Not going to win it this year either. So I mean, do you have any thoughts? I don't know why it wouldn't be him, but I guess who knows?
No, I really think it's going to be Pat Murphy, and I really think it's going to be hilarious, like you said, because there's so many times I thought Craig Counsell got screwed when he was here, and now I don't care at all. So that'd be awesome.
And I mean, I like Craig Counsell, sue me, right? I'm happy Keen's not here to use those profanities against me, but I mean, I like him and
like or liked.
I still like him, and
All
I
right,
think he
fuck
ran the
off,
team
dude.
well. And I mean, the whole Milwaukee angle was great, but Pat has so much fun with this team, and the guys, especially with it being one of the younger teams in the league, it's just been so fun to watch. So aside from the actual winning baseball games, just the team feel and stuff is another side of it that we just didn't have, and it's super fun to watch and be a fan this year. But he doesn't have a wooden peg leg and live above a bar, to my knowledge. So
That's true.
he's not quite as cool as Harvey Keen, but he was in that scooter though in spring training.
Yeah,
so
true.
Maybe he'll skip the peg leg and one day just scoot around. That'd be cool.
My one final thought is that Castanera has 19 home runs in 34 games in AAA. Okay, so he's never going to get called back up to Major League Baseball because he finally got another chance and he sucked and then he got DFA'd again. So it's never going to happen. His career's just about over with. But how? Like, I get the whole quadruple A player thing. He's like the most extreme, I think, ever.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
do
but
you hit-
PCL is a hitters league.
Sure, but 19 home runs in 34 games. Not only is he just always tearing up AAA his whole career, but 19 home runs in 34 games is insane. And then he comes up and goes 3 for 40.
I
So
think
he's
he
never gonna get another
could.
chance, but he might be the I don't
I
know.
think he could get another chance. I just
Maybe one.
wasn't gonna allow you to say you wouldn't be surprised to see him be an all-star because the man can't even get a run in the league.
This was before his last stint.
Okay, and then he proved you wrong.
Yeah, he did. It's fine.
But I mean,
thought before that he could come up and I thought the Angels was like a perfect shot, like a team that's not a playoff contender. He could come up and have a really good first half some year.
I still don't disagree. It was just using the verbiage of I wouldn't be surprised, which would mean you expect it, which would mean no. But no, I mean he had the talent we saw. I mean, there's a reason. Not only was he hyped from his talent and performance in college, but we saw in his first kind of stint with the crew what he was capable of or what we thought, and then I guess the league caught up to him or something. But I root for him still.
The Juice Baseball is the 2019. That's what it was.
Perhaps.
All right. Well, Frankie Montas versus Eric Fetty is tipping off right now. So let's go watch.
Yep. Hopefully this Cardinal series turns out better than the 1982 World Series.
Whatever. All right. Go Brewers.
Go Brewers.